John Sudholz has been dealing with depression for more than a decade. He runs a farm near Horsham in Victoria's Wimmera district. His depression came slowly.
I don't think these days I've got too many enemies in life, but if I did have, I wouldn't wish what I went through on them. But it was pretty ordinary, you know, not being able to sleep, pacing the floor in the middle of the night, going to work to do my farm work and procrastinating, not making decisions, doing things over and over again, you know, check the sheep today, check the sheep tomorrow, check the sheep the next day.
John Sudholz felt he had a lot to live up to. Even as a young bloke, he was well known as a farmer and footballer. These photographs were taken just after he was recruited by the South Melbourne Football Club. He was putting himself under pressure to emulate his father and grandfather, who had both been leaders in the community. But by the time he reached his early 40s, that pressure was starting to show.
Like, I just isolated myself. I wouldn't answer the phone. We were coming up to shearing. It was a good season. I got my team organised and things were going along, and you know, everything was going right, but I still wasn't happy. I can remember looking at the stock the sheep prior to shearing and saying, well, this is going to be a nice wool clip this year, but not getting a satisfaction out of it all.
In September 1988, all that came to a head. John Sudholz was getting ready for another day of shearing. But after months of high stress and little sleep, he was only hours away from a breakdown.
That morning I had got to the wool shed at 5 a.m. Now, what would anybody go to the wool shed at 5 a.m. for? But I woke up at 2 o'clock and couldn't sleep, so I might as well have let my wife sleep. So I got out of bed and paced around, and then I thought, well, bugger this, I'll go down to the wool shed.
It was a cycle of exhaustion, endless work and anxiety. John Sudholz had no idea he was suffering from depression. He was so tired and so wound up, he was barely able to function. His uncle arrived just as he broke down.
And he turned up just to see how the shearing was going, and he walked in the door and I just cried. I just broke down and I just could not, that was the finish. I just said to him, look, I've got to go, I need help. And that was at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. At midnight, I was in a psychiatric hospital in Melbourne. That was the closest, which is 300 k's away. That was the closest place I could get support at that time. This is going back 18 years ago.
It was a long journey home after treatment. John Sudholz was nervous about returning to his community. Even a trip to the main street was a big effort because he was worried about what people would think of him.
Unless you've been there, and it's hard to understand how it would be so difficult for a bloke like me to walk into the local newspaper agency and ask for the morning paper. And yet it really took a lot of courage for me to lift myself up to just do that.
But it wasn't long before one of the locals wandered up to welcome him home. It was a simple gesture which made all the difference.
I'm sitting there in the passenger seat beside the supermarket actually, and sort of he walked up to me and he just said, "G'day, Jumbo." He said, "It's good to see you back in town." And that was, I've never forgotten that. Like he probably has, but I haven't. And it was probably you know, something that's just stuck in my mind after all those years.
For John Sudholz, being able to talk about it has made all the difference. He now speaks openly about his condition with his friends, family and members of the community. He encourages other farmers to get serious about looking after themselves.
These days, I always go and have a health check-up prior to harvest and prior to cropping. You know, like, so I'll go and have a check out, go to my GP in the next 3 weeks or a month and just get things checked out. So I go twice a year and just, you know, like, I go and he checks me blood pressure and does the usual thing, and then I ask him how he's going. And it's interesting how I've changed my attitude.